Did you hear that 91% of guys that use Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant recommend it? Dove Men Plus Care user Anders said that it's like a mask that hides his smelly secrets. And I'd imagine that Anders' friends are very thankful. Pick up some new Dove Men Plus Care Antiperspirant for yourself at your local retailer.
It is a genuinely great line. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance, our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. It was a night of statement performances in the NBA, two of them really. The Warriors told the Spurs and everybody else, just forget it. And Russell Westbrook told the world, I do stuff no one else ever has. What a night, Mike, it was for the Warriors and for Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, for the Spurs, that was their first loss to either the Warriors or the Cavs this year. They were undefeated against both teams, and the Spurs and the Warriors. What a game this was if you were watching that one. San Antonio's up 15-0 in this game, up 22 in the first. And then they go on to lose that, eventually lose that lead and lose the game, and still without Kevin Durant, who's going to start, more of the non-contact drills and then work himself into possibly playing a few games at the end of the season before they get to the playoffs. We'll get into that a little more, but they're kind of I think it's flipped a couple of times, and we're back to who's going to challenge Golden State and which team can challenge Cleveland in the East the way we are now with the way Cleveland's playing defensively and what Golden State's doing still without Kevin Durant.
Here's something about it I kind of hate, because people will look at this and they'll see a cause and effect.
Yep.
The Warriors have won 9 straight. Do you know the last game they lost?
Kevin Durant, right?
No.
No? I thought you were going to say Kevin was
the last game they lost was the night they sat everybody in the nationally televised game against San Antonio.
Right.
So Kerr was saying, we're tired. We really need this rest. And again, whether there is any connection between the two or not, he can now look the world in the face and say, yeah, it was awful to have to sit those guys. But we've won 9 straight games since. My team needed a rest, and look at the impact that it's had. They've won 9 straight games, and in the last 2 of them, in back-to-back nights, back-to-back road games, they beat Houston and San Antonio, their top 2 competitors. So I guess, Mike, I would have to ask you the question, even though I sort of know ahead of time that you don't know the answer. Do you think there's any correlation between those two, the fact that they sat all their stars that night and they haven't lost a game since?
Well, I do think there is something to the rest, again, to go say a 9-0. But that's why these teams are doing it. They're backing it by science as well. A reason I mentioned Kevin Durant, I've heard people float out there that Kevin Durant coming back could mess up with the chemistry of this team, which is awfully wild to say about one of the top 3 players in the league to come back and have an effect like that on the team. But he'll be back soon.
Now, that said, Yes, no one could ever, with a straight face, say getting Kevin Durant back is a net negative. It's obviously an overwhelming net positive. It is, however, I think, Mike, probably reasonable to say there'll be an adjustment period, which is why getting him back sooner rather than later, to use a popular NBA term now, is beneficial, because they will face real competition in the playoffs, and you want to have that done by then. So in the first round, they'll play either Portland or Denver. You would assume they should win that easily. You want, by the end of that series, when you then might get, let's say, the Clippers in the next round, you kind of want to have worked him back in by then, right?
Yes.
Doesn't that make sense?
Absolutely.
That there will be some adjustment period. How long it takes, I don't know. And, Mike, what can you tell us about the condition he should be in when he comes back?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. And remember, this was a contact injury. So what you're worried about is that contact happening again. But because it was a contact injury, it's getting that pain out. It's strengthening and tightening things up again. It wasn't a movement injury where you're fearful of that movement when he goes back that you're healing from. Contact injury is just that. It happened because of a certain contact that you don't see a ton of. So now it's getting back in shape because it was a lower body injury. He's been not doing conditioning for a long time, so he's got to work himself back into it. And while I know basketball is a game that you can practice like you play, but it's not game-type situations. He needs to get in the game-type situations. You can try and recreate as much as you can in practice, but he hasn't even started working 5-on-5 yet. So we need to get back there again, get your win. The great thing is in basketball is you can control it with minutes and bring a guy back slowly. But that's always the biggest difference between a lower body injury and an upper body injury, the type of shape that you can stay in.
All right, Mike and Mike, the other topic that this, of course, brings up is the issue of MVP. And when Kobe was on our Sunday NBA show with Sage and company on Sunday, he said that he could see co-MVPs with Harden and Westbrook. And Sage asked him, would that be okay with you? And he said, not if I was a player, it wouldn't be. And a lot of people kind of called Kobe out. Hey, man, take a position, take a side. That's sort of a cop-out answer. But now that discussion is starting to pick up steam. Here's our very own Mark Jackson, who had very much the same thought last night.
I tell you what, watching a lot of basketball growing up, playing in the league, coaching in the league, covering the league, I've never said this before, but I really believe it should be co-MVP. I think it would be a crime when you look at the season that both of these guys have had. Certainly other guys in the discussion if it was a different year. But both of these guys, you look at the numbers. I mean, it's absolutely fascinating to think that somebody could put up numbers like this and both of them are doing it. I really believe it would be a crime if one of them did not win the MVP. So I would feel complete if both guys share the award.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I go that far. I mean, listen, the guy who doesn't win it certainly will feel bummed out, but I don't think it's a crime. I don't think it's that, this, oh, my God, this monster shame that goes on. It happens. We don't get a lot of co-MVPs in sports. And we had Brian Windhorst on, who has a vote, and I asked him, you can't in your vote give them both the same vote, the same, number value. So it's purely on the luck of the addition of how everybody votes and adding it up to co-MVP. So you can't actually vote saying, I want it to be co-MVP. So it's very, very unlikely that it's going to happen.
The way this thing probably gets ultimately swayed is just how strongly the individual voters want their candidate to win. So let's say, for the sake of argument, you would vote. We said it this morning. You would vote for Harden. I would vote for Westbrook. Mm-hmm. If you really want Harden to win and you have a vote, now I don't know if this is the right thing to do, but if you really want Harden to win, you vote for Harden number 1 and you don't vote for Westbrook number 2.
Right.
Because it's a point system, right? And so, as Mike just said, the only way there are co-MVPs, it won't be a co-MVP because the writers decided to make them co-MVPs. They'll be co-MVPs because the way all the points add up winds up being the same. And as Mike also just said, it's only happened 3 times before in history, and it's never happened in the NBA. It happened in 2003 in the NFL. Peyton Manning and Steve McNair were co-MVPs. It happened in 1997 in the NFL. Brett Favre and Barry Sanders were MVPs. And it happened in 1979 in Major League Baseball's National League. Keith Hernandez and Willie Stargell were the co-MVPs. So it would be just a statistical oddity. But if you really want your guy to win, Mike, you vote Harden. And then you could justify. You could put Kawhi, you could put LeBron, you could put Isaiah Thomas, you could put a bunch of guys before you get to Westbrook. And now you are actually increasing the chance that your guy winds up winning the award.
Yeah, that would just is that a justifiable argument? Certainly it is. There are other MVP candidates out there that are strong MVP candidates. Certainly Westbrook and Harden have gotten the lion's share of the talk for it, and understandably so. So I don't know. I don't know where this is going to go, but I do know I would vote for Harden. But if Westbrook wins, I'm certainly not going to have any sort of bad reaction to that at all. He's well deserved of the MVP, just as I think Harden is. So it's the people that say, oh, my God, anybody who doesn't vote for Westbrook doesn't know a thing about basketball. That's when it starts to get ridiculous. These two are both worthy of the MVP, and it's just a matter of your choice of what you look at. I'm getting more and more tweets. Yeah, you take Westbrook off that team, they're a lottery team. Okay, I mean, that's not the way I always look at MVP, by taking them off the team. You take the best player off any team, they're going to be worse. So now we're judging on how much worse they're going to be as who the MVP is. I just don't like looking at it that way. So that's not the way I choose to look at it, but if that's the way you choose to look at it, that's fine. If that's how you would vote for your MVP, I have no problem with that.
It is a big deal in this regard, though. I heard Dan Le Batard and Stu Gatz talking about this yesterday, and Dan was sort of making the point that it's such a trivial argument. We're splitting hairs. So what difference does it make which one you think is better? And I understand that. I mean, it is obviously true that you're splitting hairs. But it's also true that when we judge players' careers in their totality when they're over, we count up MVP awards.
We do.
It's one of the big things we count up. Every time we talk about a player's historical greatness, particularly in baseball, but in all sports, The first thing Hembo always sends me is how many times did he finish in the top 5 of MVP voting and all that kind of stuff. Because it is a good way of judging, how good a player was relative to his own era. An MVP award's a big deal.
Yep.
So, and these are both historically significant players. Neither of them, I don't think, are going to wind up being like Mount Rushmore players, but they're both going to be first ballot Hall of Fame players. So I think it is a big deal who wins MVP. Again, I would vote for Westbrook, but like you, I certainly won't, go marching in the streets if Harden winds up winning.
It's about adding to your resume, right? How many MVPs have Harden won?
He's won none.
How many MVPs have Westbrook won?
He's won none.
All right. So, this will be the first. It is important. And I understand, Dan, and splitting hairs and who really cares at times. But certainly to them, it's very important. And to your resume, it is important. And these are 2 historical seasons.
All right. We had some historical performances last night, if you will. Let's do off the top here, which we don't usually do late in the show, but it's a good way to go through some of the big stories from yesterday. And it does begin with Russell Westbrook. Mike, just go through these numbers. He had 57 points in a triple-double last night.
Yeah, 57 points, most points in a triple-double in NBA history. His second 50-point triple-double this season. Second player ever with multiple 50-point triple-doubles in a single season. The other this year, James Harden as well. So, and also, by the way, 2 monster comebacks for this team, against Dallas and then last night against Orlando to get a couple of wins.
Off the top.
Meanwhile, the Knicks have been officially eliminated from playoff contention, which is a shame because I really thought they had a late season spurt in them. And was going to lead them all the way, but potentially into a deep playoff run. Obviously, I'm kidding. They're done. They're going to run the triangle next year, and the real questions become, what is Carmelo Anthony's future with the franchise?
Yeah, without a doubt. They're playing the younger players. Carmelo said he's at peace with it. He says he understands it is what it is. The writing's on the wall and all of that. Do we want to know just how bad the Knicks have been over a span of time?
Do we really?
Yeah, you know what? You probably don't, but I'm going to tell you all anyway. Dating back to the year 2000-2001 season, the Knicks have won 1 playoff series. That's tied for the worst with the Pelicans. Congratulations. Over the last 4 seasons, the Knicks have the 4th worst record in the NBA. 76ers first, Lakers second, Magic third, Knicks are fourth. At least, Knicks, you're off the medal stand for that.
Yeah. That's regular season record. It's embarrassing, but everything in the NBA is judged by the postseason. And you mentioned only they and the Pelicans have won 1 playoff series in that time. When did the Pelicans come into existence? Hembo, they were the New Orleans Hornets, right? That was that whole thing, and then Charlotte got the name back and all that, and they just became the Pelicans. But when did they even come into existence in the first place? It's just a complete embarrassment. Elsewhere, and we talked about this with Buster Olney earlier this morning, it's something that got a lot of attention around the entire sports world yesterday. Mets closer Juris Familia suspended 15 games for domestic violence, which is not only obviously an extraordinarily significant societal problem, but one that the sports leagues have had a difficult time getting their hands on. And this one was handled by Rob Manfred, Mike, I think, in my personal opinion, extremely well.
Yeah, they did it was October 31st when this incident happened. The wife ended up not wanting to pursue it with charges. The baseball still did their own investigation, and the evidence reviewed by my office, this is Rob Manfred's statement, does not support a determination that Mr. Familia physically assaulted his wife or threatened her or others with physical force or harm. Nevertheless, I have concluded that Mr. Familia's overall conduct that night was inappropriate, violated the policy, and warrants discipline, and that's what Familia said as well. He said, well, I didn't hit or touch anybody. How I acted that night was wrong. He's not going to appeal that. So it's for the 4 suspensions out there, 82 games, 51 games, 30 games, this being 15 games. This is the lightest penalty.
Meanwhile,
off the top.
We mentioned the Warriors. They came from behind again. They've won 9 straight since they rested everybody in San Antonio back on March 11th. Last night they were losing 15-0 in San Antonio. Mike, and then what happened?
15-0. They were up 22 in the first. Then they were only up 3 by halftime. Then, after 3 quarters, the Spurs were down by 7 and end up losing this game 110-98. A pretty comfortable win it turned out to be for Golden State. So, this is what they do. An early hole. We've seen teams come back from an early hole in the NBA. That monster lead early on rarely stands up. And this was another case of it happening, again, without Kevin Durant.
And that
Off the top.
is off the top. Just a quick look at last night's action, some of the big stories around the sports, presented by Progressive Insurance, creators of the Name Your Price tool. Choose from a range of coverage options and pick the price that works for you. Wendy was really good on this MVP topic earlier this morning. He was in hour number 2 today. Mel Kiper and Jay Billis were in hour number 3. And I would remind you, you can listen to any and all 4 hours of Mike and Mike on demand in the ESPN app. You can also subscribe to the Best of Mike and Mike podcast. It's all available in the Listen tab of the ESPN app. We'll have Ryen Russillo coming in a little bit. Let me read you some of the Twitter on the Romo discussion briefly. Again, Jerry Jones, in a comment to USA Today, said, ultimately, the decision on what's going to wind up happening with Romo is going to be up to Romo. That's first and foremost on his list of considerations. So here's some of the Twitter to the conversation. James tweets, have you considered that Jerry Jones doesn't want to deal with the possibility of Romo winning a championship in Texas? We keep talking, Mike, about keeping him out of the NFC.
Right.
Do you think he wants to keep him out of the state?
I mean, how much are you going to try and manipulate where he goes? I mean, at some point. I don't know. I mean, at some point, let me put it this way. At some point, they're going to have to release him because he's not going to have trade value. He's just not. And whether they're trying to hold on to that or not, it's not going to happen. So if he's not going to be on the team, he's going to have to be released, and then any team can pick him up and he can end up there anyway. But that, I don't know. You want to start manipulating that way? I get it. It's a big state, but I understand that would be something if he went to the other team in state and won a championship.
You know, the more times we go there, the more I learn about how healthy that in-state rivalry is. In some places that's a bigger deal than in others. In California, with two teams that are in opposite conferences, for example, I don't think the Oakland Raiders and the L.A. Rams considered themselves rivals,
right?
But in Texas they do. And so if that's part of the equation, that's part of the equation. Steel Edge Films tweets at us, how about Romo to Jacksonville? Their defense is up and coming and a good wide receiving core.
You know, they, along with the Raiders last year, were talked about as could be two surprise teams. I thought Jacksonville's still a year or so away. The Raiders certainly lived up to that. Are you right? So for Romo, I still think it's a multi-year thing in Jacksonville. Are they ready to compete next year? Does Romo do that, or do you want a quarterback that you can kind of grow with? Because I think Bortles is not going to be the answer there. Hasn't been, and I don't think will be. So I do think eventually they'll go in another direction there. But is it with a 1 or 2 year guy? That's what I don't know if you want to get caught in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're an up-and-coming team, but I don't think they're a quarterback away from winning a championship, and that's what you do if you're going out to get Tony Romo. And then there's a bunch of stuff in here about the possibility of Kirk Cousins. Cousins remains, in theory, a person who could be in play if someone wanted to go a really long way toward getting him. Hi, it's Greeny, and you know what? You deserve a break. Enjoy a delicious Ryen Chewy Chocolate Caramel and get ready to celebrate. Ryen has teamed up with ESPN to give you and a guest a VIP trip to the ESPY Awards in L.A. It's the reason to party at the ESPYs sweepstakes. You could walk the red carpet, attend the award show, and even enjoy exclusive post-party access, giving you a reason to dust off that tux. Details on ESPN.com/Ryen. That's RIESEN. And remember, for double chocolate indulgence that lasts and lasts, all you need is one good reason. No purchase necessary. See ESPN.com/Ryen. He is Ryen Russillo, and his show, Russillo and Canal, headed out to Phoenix, Glendale to be exact, site of the College Basketball National Championship game on Monday. They're live every day, 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern here on ESPN Radio. Good morning, Ryen.
Morning, guys.
A lot of stuff going on here. We opened the show this morning with Mark Jackson becoming the second very prominent person to sort of advocate co-MVPs in the league this year. Kobe Bryant did it on Sunday. Mark Jackson did it last night. What do you think?
I hate it. I get it because this is brutal. I don't know who I'd vote for. I've changed my mind from Harden to Westbrook to James to back to Westbrook. I'd like to be a little old-fashioned and go, if Westbrook's really going to do this as a guard and average a triple-double in this day and age where the possessions are so much fewer than when Oscar Robertson did it, like this is a big deal. So I'd still go with Westbrook, but then I don't want to set a precedent where the next 5 years from now we're arguing why aren't more guys winning MVP. Like sometimes things are challenging, sometimes things are difficult, sometimes people get left out, and 2, 3 really good players are going to get left out of this thing. So I don't think they should change it.
What, in your mind, would happen in the next, handful or so games that are left in the season that's going to determine it for you?
Well, Westbrook's not going to all of a sudden not be able to rebound.
No.
Which is, I think, the most impressive thing of all of this is that a guy that size that the rebounds, you go, is he really going to keep this pace up? Can he physically keep this up? And ever doubting him physically is the biggest mistake you can make because the analogy I use, you remember the old movie, the Disney movie Sword in the Stone, Excalibur, and everybody's trying to pull this sword out of a stone. And the strong men from all over the world are coming by to be the next chosen one, right? And I think if Westbrook lived in that village, he would wake up every day, he would whistle into the town center, and he would try to pull the sword out until the sun went down. And then he'd shrug, and then he'd go back home, and then he'd get up, and he would do it the next day, and he would wonder why people looked at him weird going, do you not get what I'm doing? Like, I'm going to get this thing at some point. And people would go, what's wrong with him? He plays with an intensity that I've never seen. I think he's the best athlete that's ever played in the league. So I'm okay with him getting it. That's what I would do. But then sometimes I contradict myself by saying, well, what if LeBron James were on the Thunder? We'd all take them more seriously as a threat in the playoffs in the West. And would the Cavs be the 1 or the 2 seed in the East? And then you look at Harden's whole thing, and he's got more wins than Westbrook. So I understand the challenge here. I just don't want to do a thing where we start going every year, well, this guy's really close. And it's the MVP. Like, one guy's supposed to win it.
Somebody tweeted in, what if LeBron James had the triple-double right now? Wouldn't even be a question, would it?
Not a question.
Wouldn't even be a question.
But I think LeBron, with the way that he plays, I think it's just more team-friendly. I mean, this thing we're seeing with Westbrook is great, but I'll admit there are times, although his clutch numbers are incredible compared to the other guys this season, there are times where I think he forces the issue so much that I worry about them in the playoffs becoming predictable to defend. If you're really locking in a 7-game series against them, you know it's just going to be Westbrook, we're going right at you. I think they become easier to defend that way.
Their win-loss record in his triple-doubles, however, is extraordinarily good. So when he's putting up big numbers, it's not like he's doing it at the expense of the team. Right. He's doing it and contributing to winning games.
Right. They don't beat good teams, though. I mean, for the most part, I mean, they're under 500 against teams that are over 500, which is kind of, look, there's only a handful of teams that are really good in that record spot. I get why everybody's struggling with this, Greeny, but I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. And then it's like, you know how things work. We start progressing further and further away from what we actually thought the whole point of the MVP was supposed to be.
Right. No, to me, it's Westbrook. I would vote for Westbrook for a lot of the reasons you just described. The other thing that I would say about Westbrook, when you look at the way he plays, is if you had said before this season or at any point in the recent times, a player in the NBA is going to average a triple-double, we all would have thought it would be LeBron, right? I mean, that would have been the obvious choice. So the fact that it is Westbrook, to the point, you say, well, if you put LeBron on the Thunder, would you take them more seriously? Yeah, you probably would. He's a greater player. I don't think that's not what we're arguing over here, and it's not debatable. But for a player, to your previous point, of Westbrook's physical stature to be doing the rebounding, we wouldn't have been surprised if LeBron did it, but it is remarkable that Westbrook's doing it.
I think I'd be surprised if anybody cared enough to want to do it. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
And I've heard some say, well, when you look at the bigs and Westbrook, there's an understanding that Westbrook's going to get those rebounds and that sometimes the bigs aren't defending enough because they're leaking out because Westbrook's going to go ahead and get the rebound. I think that's so unfair to Westbrook. I mean, Westbrook makes high-level wing NBA players that are pretty athletic, he makes them look stupid. He makes him look slow. He makes him look like an old guy in a pickup game that he shouldn't be in. Westbrook, when he knows it's a miss out of his hands, is already behind the player that thinks he's going to box him out. Like, there's a different set of understanding that you have to have when Westbrook's out there. Westbrook will miss a shot around the hoop and go up and get it among all the 7-footers. And you look around and go, why? How is this happening with this guy? And, look, the MVP is not who's the best player all time. You know what I mean? Like, people have wanted to do this other thing, like Jordan should have won it every single year. Yeah. Shaq didn't win enough. Well, for last season, Steph Curry had that kind of season. And guess what? The throne of best player in the league was ripped back with force by LeBron in the finals. But even if we sit here and all think LeBron's the best player, like this year, what Westbrook's doing, I don't have a problem with that vote because it's so absurd.
So that's individual. Team-wise, did Golden State kind of say, all right, we're done with everybody else now?
That was something, man. I was trying to find more people to text because I was just sitting at home and I'm going, all right, so they're down 22. They can't get any buckets. And you go, okay, this is really – and everybody's complaining about back-to-back, which I love now. So whenever a team is good and they look bad, sluggish after a back-to-back, it's, these back-to-backs, man, should have rested everybody. And I also think it was pretty clear that memo worked because there was a chance that this could have been another rest game, but it was luckily on our network and everybody played. And then you see what Golden State does defensively. And when you watch what San Antonio was trying to do, guys, every screen, every kind of first action in their half-court sets would get shut down. the way that Golden State would anticipate the screens, the way that they would help, the way they would help and recover. That was about defense. I mean, Curry hit shots, Clay got hot again, but that team defensively last night put on a clinic. I know it's a cliche, but it's accurate, and they have been, since the Durant injury, if you look at some of the stats, net rating, so their differential, Golden State's still been the best team in the NBA since Durant went down. Like, we thought it was a foregone conclusion. The Spurs, 1 seed, we'll see what happens. I'm still worried about what Durant's going to look like when he comes back, but they have proven themselves to still be the best team defensively here in this last month.
And I don't even want to ask this because I'm afraid of the answer.
Well, you think I'm going to get mad?
No. I'm afraid that it's going to lead to more of something that I think is the worst thing happening in the NBA. They haven't lost a game since they rested everybody. They rested everybody on that March 11th in San Antonio, and that was now they've gotten a 9-game win streak that directly corresponds. So people will look at that, whether there is anything to it or not, and they will look at it as a direct cause and effect.
That would be, to say, hey, this is exactly what happened, and now this is the result.
Kerr's point was, we're tired, we look beat up.
It was a brutal schedule.
Some rest,
right?
And then boom, and they rest everybody, and everyone hates it, and now they haven't lost a game since.
Sure, but
including huge wins on the road.
I think the reason they lost some of those games is that I thought they'd get an emotional bump. Sometimes you have that happen post an injury, losing somebody, sometime a coach being fired. That didn't happen. It was the reverse, but they could have won the Bulls game. They could have won the T-Wolves game. If they had rested everybody in that Minnesota game on the Friday before they rested everybody against San Antonio on a nationally televised game, this wouldn't have become as big of a deal, but I understand why Kerr did it. But a lot of times it's the schedule stupid. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that to you specifically, but if you look through here, prior to the Houston-San Antonio performances they had put on, there were some teams they were going to start picking off. If you look back at the way they've played, and I watch almost all their games, when they were down double digits at home to the Sixers and people started booing, and almost not even booing anymore, just this dumbfounded, like, hey, are we not good anymore? It was the equivalent of, like, rock bottom in your life, okay? That was basketball rock bottom, down double digits to the Sixers, and Draymond Green basically said to every guy on the court, enough of this crap. I'm taking over. And Draymond, there was like 2 of them out there. They come back, they win that game. I think that was actually a bigger statement game in a weird way than even what we saw last night against San Antonio.
That's Ryen Russillo with the Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, half the cost. A different topic entirely. I'm told you had a lot of thoughts yesterday. The New England Patriots are now one of several teams who have made it clear that they do not have Joe Mixon on their draft board. He is not someone they will consider. What are your thoughts?
It's so easy if you're the Pats to go, we'd never get involved with that guy. You don't have a first and second round pick. You don't value running backs. Look at what they've done the position. So, it's like me saying, if I live on the moon, I promise to recycle more. And you're like, okay, thanks. Maybe it's a terrible analogy, but I'm just trying to think of, like, you are eliminating yourself from something that isn't likely to even be an option. And I got to tell you, like, living up there and being day-to-day with the team, like, I respect that Belichick will go after players that have baggage and doesn't care. Like, in a weird way, I admire it because he is so above the noise. He doesn't care about your distraction questions. He doesn't care what you think. He thinks if he can get a reduced value player that can help his team, he's going to go ahead and do that. And you've got 1 million fans that are perfectly happy with that arrangement. So I'm not even knocking that.
But might this be actually an edict from ownership?
It's definitely Kraft. It's definitely Kraft saying it, but then it turns into this thing. And when I'd be up there, it would be like, somebody would have baggage. And they would go, well, the Patriots would never do that. That's not the Patriot way. As far as I can tell, what the Patriot way is getting everybody to believe that they never take anybody with baggage when they go ahead and do.
They absolutely do.
So it's incredibly, like, it's a great statement and everything, but like Field Yates, who I love, but he was on SportsCenter yesterday saying the Patriots have been way ahead on this one. And you go, well, is that really what's happening? I don't have a problem with them taking the guys with baggage. I have a problem with saying, hey, pat us on the back for doing something you weren't going to do anyway.
We're going to be able to do anyway, quite honestly. Without those picks, he wasn't going to be around, just what you said.
Did the recycling thing fall flat?
No, it made perfect sense. It's a tough analogy to come up with in that instant. No, you're just trying to think of something.
Do you not recycle, Mike?
That would be like, I don't know, me saying Golic one year gave up coleslaw for Lent. Mm-hmm. I've never seen him eat coleslaw his entire life, and that was the point.
It's a very difficult.
It was the easiest give up of all time.
See, that would have been better.
That's
more
a good
people
analogy.
can relate to that. Space travel's limited audience.
That does. The coleslaw works well.
But the point of it I understand what you're saying.
You seem to disagree.
Well, I don't know that I disagree. I don't know one way or the other, but I do think it is making a different kind of – it's one thing to take guys who have baggage like Randy Moss and Corey Dillon. That's one kind of baggage. It's another thing to make the statement that even if this guy fell to us, we wouldn't take him because of this. That it does strike me as two different things. You're right. They're probably not going to have the opportunity to draft him even if they wanted to. But I do think it is one of the leadership owners of the league, Robert Kraft in this case, making a statement about a subject that is probably the most significant one in the sport.
I agree, because they've taken guys. The latest was Michael Floyd after the DUI and got cut from Arizona, and they took him in. I think what this says, Ryan, is, okay, we have a line. We have a line, and we're not going over this line if we had a pick or not. That's just because they didn't have to make that public, because you're right. They don't have a pick there, so they weren't going to get him anyway, but they made the statement, to Greeny's point. Yes, they have taken other guys with baggage, but we're not going there.
I know what you mean. It's easy to say it when you don't have the opportunity to do it, but it sounds to me like you're saying if they did have the opportunity to do it, you think they might do it. And I'm saying then they're really being disingenuous. If they're coming out and saying this only because they know they're not going to have the opportunity to get him, that's opportunistic and disingenuous.
Yes. Okay, but have they been applauded roundly since this
Yes,
story?
they have. Yes,
right.
they have. Yes,
so,
they have.
I mean, I thought it was – I mean, maybe I'm the jerk in all this, all right? I'm willing to admit that that's a possibility.
But you will recycle on the moon.
But I will. But
and that's a major concern up there.
And now, insurance-minded speeches from Geico.
Hardship. My grandmother would go through it every month to pay her insurance bill. First, she would handwrite a paper check, in cursive. Then, using her own tongue, she would wet a stamp for an envelope. Today, however, we need not weary our hands and tongues. Today, we can pay our Geico bill with the Geico app. Away with hardship, in with bill pay on the Geico app. Thank you.
Really a delight. He's been so good in so many things over the years. His new show is called Brockmire. It comes up shortly on IFC. We'll talk about that and much more. Hank Azaria, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you. Nice to be here. Big fans. Nice to see you guys. And very nice to be here with the Scots Turf as well.
Well, there you go. I mean, the key right there.
We weren't ready to go until that was brought over.
No, they flew that right in, and I feel right at home.
That was it. I mean, you settled in after that, right?
I did. It's a nice touch.
Everyone has seen you in a million things, heard your voice and even more, and now we will see you in this new show, Brockmire. We've shown some clips of it earlier this morning where you play, for lack of a better word, a washed-up baseball announcer who makes an unusual sort of comeback. Let's talk about that.
Jim Brockmire is a man who talks like this, who has a deep voice, kind of a throwback to the 70s, not afraid of the hot take. I figured he'd fit in well at ESPN. And may I say, as Jim Brockmire, it's good to see you fellas. And Golic, you look thin.
Well, thank you.
No, you got like a Luther Vandross sort of John Favreau kind of, you wax and wane in size kind of thing going on. I never know what I'm going to get from you until I turn on the TV and see you sending me endless appetizers, which sometimes you eat and sometimes you don't, I'm guessing.
Seriously, how hard is it to stay in that voice for as long as you have to?
I can do it for as long as they'll keep paying me.
As long as the camera's rolling, huh?
Yeah, as long as the camera's rolling and the paycheck clears, I will do it.
That's such a great skill. Like,
who'd you say, though?
It sounds a little like Vince Scully. I mean, what was the...
Scully's a little higher, a little bit here. I think the closest modern equivalent, I would say, is probably John Miller.
Yeah.
Is the deep... But John Miller is not a hack. John Miller is an amazing broadcaster. But it's more the Costas. I sent them to Bob Costas. He identified it correctly. It's the generic baseball announcer voice, especially from the 1970s where I grew up. And I know you're from my area. You're from New York.
Yeah.
Vinny. And may I say to you that you are 20 years you've been on this network, and you look the same. I don't understand. Is there a Dorian Gray thing happening? Is there a portrait of you from your bar mitzvah in your attic just slowly aging? You're like the Dick Clark of the 21st century, America's oldest teenage sportscaster. God bless you.
Oh, that is fantastic. But I love the premise of this. A big-time Major League Baseball announcer have that meltdown, and you watch it, you'll see why and everything. And then you come back and start up again with a minor league. Amanda Peet owns it, by the way. I'm a very big fan of hers, obviously, as well.
Me too.
And just having to deal now with the whole minor league system and how you go through that. We saw some of the clips. Looks hilarious.
Honestly, I don't always say this. I really love this show. It's taken us a long time to make it. I have been doing this voice or some version of it since I was a teenager. And the idea of the guys like that always sound like that. kind of comedically fascinated me, and we got to sort of enact that in this series.
It debuts April 5th on IFC. Again, it's called Brockmire, which is the name of Hank's character. We're friendly with Frank Caliendo, who is another one who does all of these voices.
He's all right. If you like overweight little tubby guys who can make their voice kind of do things, sure. Kind of like little tricks he does. No, I'm a huge Caliendo fan as well.
What a skill. What a talent. At what point in your life did you realize, I can do any voice in the world? And obviously you've made an extraordinarily good living doing just that on The Simpsons and many other places. So let's not even waste time asking you that. Let's just have you do something.
I was very young.
What's that?
I was young when I discovered that. I thought everybody could do it. I didn't realize it was a marketable skill.
Yeah, what it turned into. How about that? Huh?
Yeah, that was lucky, actually.
So for those, obviously there are millions and millions and millions of fans of The Simpsons who may not have ever seen or were not aware that you were the person connected with those voices. Let's hear a little bit of that.
Well, you got your motor bartender, of course, Mike and Mike, who, I feel very close to. I used to bartend myself personally. I feel if I didn't get the Simpsons job, instead of motor bartender, I'd be Hank the bartender. There's Police Chief Wiggum, of course, America's favorite cop. And Apu Nasa Pima Patalan, which that is spelled exactly the way it sounds. Nasa Pima Patalan. And then many other weird, like Cletus the slack-jawed yoke. You know Cletus?
Oh,
Yeah, I do him. And Professor Frank, of course, my personal favorite. You fellas are probably old enough to remember the Jerry Lewis.
Oh, my gosh, that's exactly,
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for the love, Golic. Golic sounds like something that Professor Frank might scream, like, "Oh, Golic, that hurt my flavy."
Seriously, though, 28 years, I mean, when that Simpson thing whole started, I mean, at what point are you like, wow, okay, this is really good, and this is taking off?
Almost right away, but then the fact that it's, we're recording our 29th season right now. 29.
This doesn't happen.
That's the only only you guys have been around close to as long.
And even not that long, yeah.
So that, for an animated show, makes no sense, really.
The other one that I wonder, did more people comment to you, and I know I might be getting back to something that's pretty old here, but the movie The Birdcage, which is one of the funniest movies ever, did more people comment on how funny your character was and how yoked you are? I remember seeing that, I'm thinking, oh my God, Hank Azaria is yoked.
Yeah, every few years. Yoked. By the way, he doesn't mean people threw eggs at me.
Yeah,
I was in good shape.
Yeah.
Not a
really
Halloween
good
prank thing. Every few years I get a role where I have to be naked or semi-naked, and it frightens me right into the gym. And, actors have, what else do I have to do leading up to a role besides go work out? So I did.
That voice, we need that voice.
This voice, Jimmy, from The Birdcage. Agador is not a big sports fan, but you guys are so handsome. And also, this is true, fellows. There was a sequel to The Birdcage written. I'm not lying about this. And it was Agador goes to the NFL and becomes a kicker. Actually, that's really true.
Really?
I swear. It was a very not good script, but it was written.
We are going to run out of time, which is a tragedy.
Oh, my gosh.
Sports Center is brought to you by Straight
great.
Talk Wireless. Other wireless providers say they'll cut your bill in half, but who knows what kind of coverage you'll get. With Straight Talk Wireless, you get nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks, and their no-contract unlimited plan is only $45 a month. Watch Brockmire, starring Hank Azaria and Amanda Peet. It starts April 5th on IFC.
Really looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, best of luck with that. Really. I hope it's a smash hit.
Thank you, fellas. I'm sure it will be. It's quality stuff.
This is great. It was so much fun to have you here. Thank you very much.
Enjoy your time here.
My pleasure. I'm very excited to be here. My first time here.